My name is Bob Burke, and I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda. A second? It's been moved and supported. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, none. The agenda has been approved. At this time, I will turn the mic over to Frank Hardister, who will do the introductions and we'll start the meeting.
Well, thank you. My name is Frank Hardister, and I'm the county administrator, and I'm a lifelong resident of Southwest Michigan. I've been an employee of Van Buren County since 2014 and began my current role in 2021. The PCAP has two major purposes. One, to provide a public forum for communicating the physical decommissioning process. And two, it serves as a community stakeholder group for the Palisades Economic Recovery Initiative. Basically, the socioeconomic impacts. PCAP membership. The PCAP was formed using other models in the state and nationally. Membership positions were identified and citizens were identified or recommended for select positions. The Van Buren County Board of Commission reviewed and officially appointed the membership positions and participants that are here today. Our PCAP officers. So we have our chair of the board, Robert Burr, Bob, he prefers to go by. Bob Burr served as mayor of the city of South Haven for 4 terms. He's a current board member of Southwest Michigan Land Conservancy and the South Haven Van Buren County Convention and Visitors Bureau. In addition, he serves as chairman of the Board of Public Utilities for the city of South Haven. With Chairman Burr's blend of experience in local politics, supporting community environmental concerns, and participation in public discussions regarding Palisades, this will serve this panel well and our community well as we navigate the closure and decommissioning of Palisades. Our vice chair is Mike Chappell. Mike is a United States Air Force veteran and is currently serving in his 2nd term as the Van Buren County Commissioner for District 4. As a commissioner, he is chair of the Local Revenue Sharing Board, the Veteran Services, and the 911 Committee. In addition, he sits on a variety of other local committees, including the Local Emergency Planning Committee. Commissioner Chappell currently serves as captain of the Hartford Fire Department, where he has been a firefighter and medical responder for 26 years. This is particularly relevant as the Hartford Fire Department is a designated emergency vehicle decontamination site for Palisades. Therefore, Mr. Chappell has training in radiological emergency preparedness and emergency worker decontamination procedures. Mr. Chappell's blend of experiences and background will also serve the PCAP well through the closure and decommissioning process. And with that, back to you, Chair.
Thank you. The next order of business will be the introduction of the PCAP members, and I think, Frank, you're going to go ahead and introduce everyone. Hand them the mic.
I will hand the mic. We'll just go in alphabetical order.
Good evening. I'm Captain Rocky Adams with the Berrien County Emergency Management.
I'm Kyle Boone. I'm the environmental specialist for the Pokagon Band of Potawatomi.
Good evening. My name is Yolanda Brun, and I'm superintendent of Colbert Public Schools.
Good evening, Pastor Aaron Cobb, Pastor Spiffy Church of Christ, and a business owner in South Haven, A&B One Stop.
Good evening, Scott Corbin, Allegan County Emergency Management Director. Nick Culp, Government Affairs Manager for Entergy Palisades.
Lieutenant Bob Kirk, Office of Domestic Preparedness for Van Buren County.
Kate Hosier, City Manager for the City of South Haven.
Rita Holly, Communications Manager at the Public Service Commission.
Dan Harrington, Colbert Township Supervisor.
Otto Gustafson, Energy Palisades. I'm the Director of Reg Assurance and Performance Improvement, as well as for decommissioning planning.
Greg Gothard, State of Michigan, Eagle, Radiological Emergency Preparedness.
John Eaglehoff, Director, Southwest Michigan Planning Commission.
Kurt Dorrell, Van Buren County Commissioner, District Number 2.
Barbara James Norman, outreach worker for USDA, and in my real life, I'm a blueberry farmer.
Joe Parman, Van Buren County Drain Commissioner.
Dale Patterson Gladney, Van Buren County Commissioner, District 1.
Danielle Persky, Health Officer for Van Buren Cass District Health Department.
Joffrey Rose, Colbert residents.
Matt Metzger, Unit Supervisor, Van Buren State Park.
Pat Whalen, working out of class, District Manager, Plano District with the Department of Natural Resources.
Orlando, Washington, Business Manager, Construction Laborers, Local 355.
Kathy Wagaman, Executive Director of the South Haven Area Chamber of Commerce.
George Stever, Vice President, Utility Workers Union of America, Local 150.
Ross Stein, South Haven Charter Township Supervisor.
Thank you. I would like to introduce Sarah Schoen, who will explain the overview of the governing principles of PCAP and also our guidelines on communications and the fact that we are being filmed, and for posterity, you will have a record, a visual record that you can view at any time on the internet of all of the meetings and the conversations. So I'll turn this over to Sarah with the rules.
Thank you. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the Programs and Projects Manager at Market Van Buren. You probably received quite a few emails from me in organizing this meeting, so thank you all for being here. As we just lay a foundation for how this panel is going to work, there are a couple of governing principles I'd like to share with you all. You can crane your neck. The charter, which actually governs this group, is also included in your meeting packets. For members of the public that are curious to see the charter, it is available on the county's website. You can go to vanburencountymi.gov. Up under the government tab, you'll find a Palisades Community Advisory Panel, and this information is available there as well. A couple of key points for members of this panel to be aware of. First, meetings are going to occur as necessary. They'll be announced at least 1 week in advance. It would be our intention to give you much more notice than that, but that is the rule as far as the charter goes. We'll have a couple of more meetings with higher frequency ahead of the closure of the Palisades plant, but then the intention is to fall into a quarterly schedule. We can add additional meetings if needed, but the intention would be very measured and intentional with how we use all of your time, especially given how many of you have traveled so far to be here with us. A couple of points is, I know we have some folks who are joining us online. This body is a public body and it's subject to the Open Meetings Act, which means that members must be here in person to be considered present, to participate in discussion outside of public comment period, and to vote on any matters that are brought before the body. This is particularly relevant because membership to this panel is automatically terminated if you miss 3 consecutive meetings. So for folks that are joining online, you can join online twice more before we're going to boot you out. Quorum is defined by 17 people meeting in person. If we can't get 17 people in the room, we can't proceed with the meeting. Issues that are proposed at the start of the meeting to be added to the agenda, if there's something you'd like addressed, that can be added. It does require a 2/3 vote. If you do not get the votes, the topic will just be added to our next agenda. Lastly, as is evident by the body that we have here, meetings are open to the public. Every meeting will have a public comment period at the end. These meetings are being recorded both for YouTube on video. We'll also have minutes and supporting documents that are available online on the county's website once again. Any questions at this point about the guidelines? Hearing none, seeing nobody shooting their hand up. We'll just talk about real quickly guidelines for PCAP communication. For members of the public, if there's anything that you want to be brought forth before PCAP, if you have other questions related to the Palisades closure, the best way to get a hold of the information you're looking for is to send an email to palisades@marketvanburen.org. We're going to use that as a clearinghouse, so all questions, information that gets funneled in there can get to the right people. Even if the folks at Market Van Buren don't have the answer for you, we'll be directing your questions to the people who do have the answers. That's the link there for direct access to PCAP meeting materials. Minutes will go up there. Again, presentations, links to recordings. If you don't want to remember that whole URL, you can just visit vanburencountymi.gov and use the navigation at the top to find links to meeting materials. This is what it looks like just up at the top, you can see boards and commissions. We're at the very bottom. You'd think it would be alphabetical, but it's not. That's all right, just as easy. We're at the very bottom of the list. And an arrow for emphasis. Having said that, that concludes my portion of this presentation, and I will hand it back to Mayor Burr.
Thank you. We have two major items on the agenda this evening. We are asking Energy to discuss with us the head count at Palisades, the fact that we're going to go from 600 employees down to 200 plus. So we would like a presentation on where all the employees are going to go, and then that will probably be followed by a presentation from John Eaglehoff, who will explain the training that his group can provide as far as job training and so forth. So the first meeting that we're having is focusing on the kind of the human aspect of the Palisades operation and what's going to happen to all the employees. So that's the topic this evening. Otto.
Did you want to do this here or you want to do it on that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to all the members. As I had said, my name is Otto Gustafson, Director of Regulatory and Performance Improvement at Palisades. I'm responsible for programs like security, emergency preparedness, training, corrective action program, industrial safety, human performance. I've been in this position for 8.5 years. And unfortunately, since December of 2016, I've also been responsible for decommissioning planning. We did not believe today's presentation warranted slides, but we're certainly open to feedback in the future as our presentations become more technically oriented. We're more than happy to bring visual cues, whatever the members need to understand the issues. For plant status, as of today, Palisades has been safely and continuously operating for 463 consecutive days since completing our final refueling and maintenance outage back in October of 2020. Palisades is currently operating at full power and ranks in column 1 of the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission's Regulatory Oversight Process Action Matrix, which is the federal government's highest safety category. The 600 nuclear professionals who work at Palisades continue to remain focused on the safe, secure, and reliable operation of the plant until our permanent shutdown this May. As announced several years ago, Palisades remains scheduled to permanently cease operations on May 31st of this year. Following the plant's shutdown, Palisades will commence a defueling outage. We'll remove all fuel from the reactor and place it in our plant spent fuel pool. We'll permanently remove the station from service and certify as such to the NRC. Following these activities and those regulatory submittals, we'll have a transaction close in the ownership of Palisades, along with its nuclear decommissioning trust and decommissioning liability. Will transfer from the current owner and operator Entergy to Holtec for purposes of safely and timely decommissioning the station. The post-shutdown sale of Palisades from Entergy to Holtec was first announced back in 2019, and the license transfer application was approved by the NRC in December of the last year. In its decision, the NRC determined that Holtec possesses the required technical and financial qualifications to decommission Palisades safely and in accordance with the NRC requirements. The NRC also approved the license transfer of Entergy's already decommissioned Big Rock Point. That facility is near Charlevoix. And at the Big Rock Point, there is only an independent spent fuel storage installation. This is the area where spent nuclear fuel is safely stored until the United States Department of Energy transfers the spent fuel offsite. I'd like to continue to keep you informed of ongoing activities related to plant shutdown as part of our membership on the CAP. So Entergy and Holtec last week did notify the NRC of changes to streamline Holtec's organizational structure, which are being formally communicated through a supplement to that approved license transfer. Holtec will remain the post-shutdown license holder, as well as now serve as the general contractor for the work at Palisades and other Holtec locations. This includes managing and performing decommissioning and spent fuel management activities. Holtec has stated its plan to complete the decommissioning of Palisades in 19 years. That's more than 4 decades sooner than the full 60 years allowed by the federal government. This timeline should come as a welcome news for the local community, which stands to benefit from a safe and timely decommissioning. So I'll now talk about our workforce transition. I'd like to spend a couple of minutes mentioning that Palisades currently employs 600 workers, about 1/3 of whom live here in Van Buren County. We have several outlets for them to continue employment. First, we'll talk about phase 1. Following the permanent cessation of plant operations and reactor defueling, around 260 individuals, which is more than 40% of our workforce, will staff the plant's phase 1 decommissioning organization. Holtec is committed to offering employment to all phase 1 employees pending the successful close of the transaction. In addition to phase 1 employment, Entergy has a program called the Talent Absorption Program. Entergy is committed to finding a position within the company for any qualified Palisades employee who is willing to relocate to the company's utility service territory in either Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, or Texas. We currently anticipate approximately 130 employees, which is about 20% of the workforce, will take advantage of this talent retention opportunity. Another possibility for our employees is retirements. Additionally, roughly 1/4 of our Palisades workforce will be retirement eligible by the time of the plant's closure this spring. And then finally, for those workers who do not relocate within Entergy or accept a position with our phase 1 decommissioning organization or retire, Entergy will continue to further work with local employers and economic development organizations to provide additional supportive services. That support will include cross-functional training, resume writing, and interview workshops, as well as a job fair later this year. In closing, I'd like to thank the chairs and fellow CAP members for this opportunity. Palisades recently celebrated 50 years of operational excellence, no small part of which has been our relationship with the local community. Between now and shutdown, we remain ever committed to this community, as well as to our workforce who have kept Palisades safe, secure, and reliable. And with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions related to today's report. Any questions? Comments?
Ken Harry from Fulton Township Supervisor. I had a question in reference to, and I understand we probably have maybe 1 to 8 employees at Palisades. My question was about revenue losses, and I know we're probably not talking about the subject now, but revenue losses in our township. Is there anything that we're going to be able to do to an action plan for the township, significant revenue losses?
And we certainly understand the impact that has, and Nick Culp, Entergy, which is why we've tried to work closely with the township and our other community partners since the closure was announced several years ago. As far as revenue losses, that's something, well, I was gonna say for better or for worse, but frankly for better, that's not decided by the company, right? Most companies, if they could write their own tax bill, it'd be a little different. But the revenues to the township and the other taxing units is decided by the township assessor and approved by the county board. I do know that that's been on a track over the past several years, but we are certainly understanding of the impact that will have in addition to the jobs.
I saw another hand. Any other questions? Comments? I think John was next.
Comment. The revenue stream for the taxable revenue from the Palisades plant is, in this past year of 2021, is approximately $350,000. That includes the winter tax bill plus the summer tax bill. So that's the amount of money that goes to various agencies, county and state and everybody else. So the taxable amount that Palisades pays is $350,000, just as a point of reference. Any other questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, then we will go to John Egelhoff, who has the title of Director of the Southwest Michigan Planning Commission. And John is the one who is working on training programs and helping employees to find jobs and so forth. So John, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Right, so this PCAP board, as they had already mentioned today, has two purposes. The second of those two purposes is as our main connection point for an economic recovery strategy for the region. So that's what I'm here to talk about today, is the strategy itself, the methodology behind it, where it's going, and how it is that the PCAP is going to be engaged in this strategy. I want to explain ahead of time, though, that the Southwest Michigan Planning Commission is not the body that will be retraining folks. That is not what we're built to do. But we are, through this effort, our hope is to get a full and comprehensive understanding of the economic impact of the loss of Palisades on the region, and then to build a strategy to respond to that loss. So that is our purpose, and I will walk you through that presentation here. This is really an introduction to the initiative. So I will keep it, we have 15 minutes, so it'll be relatively brief. We have a very detailed methodology that is behind all of this work, but this presentation is necessarily brief to walk you through it. So I will cover today what the initiative is, how it is to be executed, when, and who is involved. What is the initiative? Okay, the goal is to design, then execute a comprehensive strategy to mitigate the economic impact of the Palisades closure. How will it be executed? First, to build the economic recovery strategy, there will be a thorough analysis of current positive impact of Palisades on the regional economy. That analysis phase will go through several steps. We will be reviewing, analyzing, researching the primary impacts, the secondary impacts, the tertiary impacts, and we will seek public input. So at each point along the way in the construction of this strategy, we'll reach back to you, the PCAP, as well as the general public, for comment and possible improvement to wherever we are at that point. Our main partner in the bulk of the construction of the strategy is the University of Michigan's economic, wow, need my glasses, shoot. Yep, the Economic Growth Institute at the University of Michigan. They are some of the state's most impressive experts in this field. Their intention here, let me just read through, they have a model that will help us to model the impacts. The model is called IMPLAN, and I'll just go ahead and read through this slide because that's, it's a lot of words, but that might help. Impacts to be provided at the direct, indirect, and induced levels through the IMPLAN software. IMPLAN utilizes an economic modeling technique called input-output analysis, which is a type of applied economic analysis that tracks the interdependence among various producing and consuming industries of an economy. It measures the relationship between a given set of demands for final goods and services and the inputs required to satisfy those demands. In this case, it will measure how the closure of the plant ripples through the local economy. A little more detail on this analysis side of the study. They are looking specifically at the Palisades workforce. This is the Economic Growth Institute. Where do folks live? What are their commuting patterns? How do they sort across earnings categories? How do they sort across levels of education? What other demographic components can be understood about the workforce? Then Palisades' direct impact on the economy. What's the annual income, the annual expenses, and the local cost of purchasing electricity from Entergy? Then the indirect. So let's be a little more specific about the indirect impacts. The local products purchased annually within the supply chain. So this is not just about jobs lost. This is also about the way that dollars ripple through the economy. So the impacts of periodic shutdowns, hotel occupancy, restaurants, entertainment, local costs of purchasing electricity without Entergy. These are all the various secondary impacts that might not be considered if we're not entirely thorough about this. And then the tertiary impacts, those maybe the third layer of impact across the economy. And these are all of the various elements of the tertiary impact, including things like philanthropy. What have we lost through folks who might have been charitable givers? Transportation. Safety requirements and implications. There's quite a few other considerations, and of course the schools. So so far what we know specifically from Entergy are what you've already heard a little bit about today, the number of employees, where the employees will be in 2025, and the total wages both in 2022 currently, and then in 2025, and what those lost wages amount to. Okay, so secondly, after that analysis piece, based on what is learned from the analysis, we then begin to draw conclusions. This is the assessment part, where we're determining the scale of loss, the opportunities for mitigation, and to, again, seek public input. The assessment will involve looking at systems, sectors, community assets, trying to understand how they can be aligned, augmented, or expanded to fill the impending gaps left by the closure. So the outcome, at this point, what are we looking at? Well, the outcome of that phase where we've gone through analysis and assessment is to look at the impact on local industries and taxes, and then establish the beginnings of the recovery strategy and where to prioritize resources. How will it be executed? The third piece, recovery action strategy. So at that point, we have gone through the initial phases of that analysis, the assessment, and we're at the point where we're starting to outline general and specific response actions and then prioritize those actions. And again, we're looking for public input at that point. So recognize that at each one of these points, we'll be looking for PCAP engagement. And finally, the fourth piece is where the action strategy, when it is completed, is turned over to a designated recovery implementation specialist. This person will be specifically asked to implement the strategy. So they will be on site in Van Buren County. This is a person who will be working with all folks throughout the region to make sure that the recovery strategy is attended to. Their sole focus will be to systematically drive the actions itemized in the recovery strategy. When will the initiative happen? The process began when the final piece of funding was received in the third quarter of 2021. I'll talk about where the funding came from and how much was involved. And the project will conclude in June of 2024. who was involved. On the funding side, the U.S. Department of Commerce Economic Development Administration was the primary funder at just under $1 million. Consumers Energy Foundation contributed $140,000. The Michigan Department of Treasury, $53,000. And Michigan State Housing and Development Authority, $50,000. Was involved in the actual execution of the strategy. University of Michigan's Economic Growth Institute, as I already mentioned. Market Van Buren, Connexus, deeply involved. The Michigan Economic Development Corporation, Michigan Department of Treasury, Michigan Public Service Commission, and the Southwest Michigan Planning Commission by organization. These partners meet monthly. There is a lot of work that happens in between those monthly meetings, but they are meeting internally as a team monthly, and then we are prepared at various important quarters, perhaps, to meet with the PCAP with the results. Public engagement, of course, that public is also involved, the PCAP. The general public engagement can happen via the website, which is a page on the county's website, and also through Facebook. We're in the process of building a community survey, which we'll share with the public, and that will be available through the website as well. This is what the website, the web page looks like. Again, you won't be able to see this, but this is the county's website, and you can reach it by going through, I think, this banner along the top. You kind of click through there, and you can find the economic initiative there. Okay, so there, that is the initial presentation. Any comments or questions? Yes.
Thank you. I do see that there's 4 parts to the plan here for the economic recovery strategy. My question is for the designated recovery implementation strategy, person who will be implementing this, is that covered in the funds that have already been put together? Thank you.
The intention here is about 1.5 years of actually the beginning to the end of the study itself, and then another 1.5 years of the recovery specialist on site doing the work. I don't want to overpromise, but the U.S. Department of Commerce has been very generous about saying, by all means, once you've kind of established this, they are very open to extend that, the term of that specialist by refunding it subsequent years. So there's good hope that there may be additional funding.
Yeah, go ahead and talk about that. I first figured utility workers union in the local work by president. I was curious as to when any of this work been done. Because most of us in here know this was not the first announcement or first decommissioning of Palisades. We were supposed to start down in 2018. Has any of this work been done up to that point?
What a great question. At the very first indication that shutdown was coming, we began this process of seeking this funding for this work. There were regulations in place that said until there's a specific sort of tripwire that has to be crossed to assure the all of the forces that yes, indeed, a closure is imminent. And it's only after that wire is tripped, you get I don't know, 1 year or something like that previously, that's the only time that the EPA would fund. They would wait for that 1 year and they would say, okay, now we know you're going to shut down, we will consider funding. EPA changed their policy on that. So it doesn't make much sense to plan when you only have 1 year to prepare for closure, it makes no sense. So they changed their policy, so we were able to apply for funding well in advance of this decommissioning. And it took a while to get through the application phase, but yes, by the third quarter of last year, funding had been, received and we were ready. But yeah, we are very much moving in this direction for a while. We had support from the county commission, all of that. It was the funders weren't ready to go. Thank you.
Hey, John, can I? The subcontract employees. Obviously, discussions in the project. Will those be included in the?
Right. Fortunately for us, Carmen from the University of Michigan is in the audience. I don't think she's very here. Carmen understands their data collection better than anybody. So these are the types of questions she's willing to answer. But the point is,
it's right down.
we specified this in the study methodology. We absolutely
won't
no
reach.
answers on that. So that's what the University of Michigan is working very hard to try to get its hands on it. So Carmen, go ahead, whatever you can.
Yeah, wonderful question. Hello, everybody. Yeah, we've been working very closely with John's group and Nexus Group, Mark Van Buren, and we really wanted to get a lot of this data directed in energy, which we actually did for that one slide we told you. And so we're hopefully trying to get all the information regarding the numbers of employees. You know, there's a significant number of contract employees. So hopefully we can, identify those and categorize them and put them into our model. Include them. We could try it. So right now, turned on. For contract employees, to analyze that substance.
In the absence of Abby, I think we'll continue. I'd like to just discuss briefly on future meetings. We envision 2 additional meetings between now and May. So we have scheduled a meeting on April 13th on a Wednesday at 6 p.m. And that will be for HOLTEC to present an overview of the complete decommissioning process. In other words, provide us with what is going to happen the first year, the second year, up to the 20 years. And also be able to explain how much money will be spent with different categories. There's currently $565 million determination. So one of the things will be to analyze flow and what the projections are. So at any rate, the next meeting, the April meeting, will be dedicated to their entire process of decommissioning. Next meeting will be present what their role will be in all understand what the NRC role will be. So that really is to be determined. We have to contact the NRC and they're going to come up with a date. The times will always be on a Wednesday at 6 p.m. There was a survey done of all of you members, and this was the most advantageous time to use for meetings. So we envision 2 more meetings before plant shutdown, and one will be HOLTEC, and that will be an entire meeting for them to explain the entire process of decommissioning. And then the second meeting will be the NRC, and they'll explain what their role is and how they're going to oversee. We are a committee who can make recommendations only, and one of the recipients of our recommendations will be the NRC. So we're happy to hear what they propose. At this time, I'll turn it over to Sarah, and I think we're going to open public comments from outside the room.
So this is going to happen in two phases. We do have folks that are online, and then we also have folks who are in the room. To save Frank from having to run around like a crazy person between the two of them, we'll just start with public comment that's in the room. There will be a time limit of 3 minutes for each person who's seeking to make public comment, although certainly you can ask questions as well of this group here. And then once we finish with public comment in this room, we'll turn it over to the folks who are online. Folks who are online, when the time comes, please use the reaction button to select the raise your hand button. We have Riley, who is manning the computer for us. Thank you, Riley. And he will just run through the line and unmute you folks in the order that you've raised your hand, or at least the order that you appear on his computer. So if you're online, please hold tight. We will get to you in just a moment. In the meantime, we'll turn it over to the public here. If anybody would like to make a comment, I invite you to raise your hands, and Frank will get the mic to you. And then Riley, if you could get a timer up on the screen when you have a moment, just so everybody can be aware of what the 3 minutes are. We're not cheating anybody out of their due time. Yep, and you'll just need to screen share the Google. The Google. Yep, that one there. All right. Any public comment here from folks in the room?
Hi there, Jonathan Bird, and I'm president of the South Central Michigan AFL-CIO, which represents organized labor in the 9 counties in Southwest Michigan, and also I'm a member of Labor's Local 355. And I just wanted to say, on behalf of the labor movement here in our community, thank you guys for your service on this committee. This is a really important project, and it's really important that it's done right, and it's done in a way that protects the skilled trades jobs here in our community. So I just wanted to extend our appreciation on behalf of the labor movement to the work you guys are all doing, and look forward to working with you closely in the future.
Any other public comment in the room? One more time, any other public comment in the room? Last but not least, one more time, public comment. 3 times, right? All right, and now online. Do we have any online?
Yes, we do. This will be Kevin Camps.
Kevin Camps, if you want to go ahead and ask your question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Kevin Camps, and I work at Beyond Nuclear, but I also serve on the board of directors of Don't Waste Michigan, representing the Kalamazoo chapter, and also on the advisory board of Citizens for Alternatives to Chemical Contamination. And I did put these questions into the question and answer box, but because of the 3-minute time limit, I'll just summarize. If you read Holtec's post-decommissioning shutdown activities report plan that was issued in December of 2020, there are some very alarming plans that Holtec has. One is to only clean down to a certain distance, I believe 3 feet deep, and only in certain places in the footprint of buildings. That means any radioactive contamination deeper than that or outside the footprint of buildings would simply be left behind to eventually leak into the environment. In addition, Holtec plans to ship radioactive waste on Lake Michigan, barge shipments of high-level radioactive waste up to the port of Muskegon, and radioactive steam generator shipments, perhaps up to Muskegon or perhaps down the Mississippi River waterways through Chicago. So my question is, what is the economic impact of the radioactive stigma associated with Holtec's plans? This eventual leakage of abandoned radioactive contamination into the water, into the food chain, and just realize that certain of these radioisotopes are deadly for centuries, some for thousands of years, and some for millions of years. So what would the radioactive stigma be of routine incident-free barge shipments on Lake Michigan? But what would the radioactive stigma be if one of those shipments were to sink, whether due to an accident or an intentional attack or an extreme weather event? What if there's leakage from the container that's now on the bottom of Lake Michigan? What if infiltrating water sparks an inadvertent nuclear chain reaction on the bottom of Lake Michigan? Why does Holtec not plan to move the dry cask storage much further inland away from historic high Lake Michigan water levels to a site that meets NRC's earthquake safety regulations, which both current pads do not do? So in addition, I would just like to support the long call that environmental groups have made for a just transition for the workforce at Palisades, but certainly require that a comprehensive radiological cleanup and an adequate safeguarding and securing of the high-level wastes be planned and carried out. Thank you.
If I may, before we move on to the next speaker, I would like to note, Kevin, thank you for submitting comments in writing. Those will be compiled and will be sent to PCAP members. So your comments will eventually be in front of the group, but we appreciate you respecting the 3-minute time limit and summarizing all of the comments you may have submitted.
Further public comment online?
Yes. Yes, okay. Iris is going to share that.
This is going to be Iris.
So yeah, Iris, you can unmute yourself. Yep.
Thank you. I understand in the last couple of years, my name is Iris Potter. I'm with Michigan Safe Energy Future, and I've been communicating with some of the economic folks there over the last couple of years. What can you tell me what kind of new businesses have been recruited to settle in the South Haven area? And tell me about that work that's been done to do that, and what kind of work is being done currently?
I believe this was not going to be necessarily a Q&A. Is that true? If this is more public comment, and we'll get back to them on the questions that are being posed?
For the folks that couldn't hear that, Mayor Burr said here that we will, if you're submitting a question and we don't have the answer readily available here, we will note it and we will address it in upcoming meetings. So you have been heard and we will seek an answer for you. Thank you for your comment.
Additional public comment online.
Yes, this will be Catherine Barnes.
Catherine Barnes, if you want to unmute yourself.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah, my concern is that I learned that Holtec has been dumping nuclear waste into the Atlantic Ocean. And I'm concerned that they will do the same dirty things here in Michigan. And I think that the local people, former employees of Entergy, people in the community should kind of band together and form some sort of watchdog group and kind of have some oversight on that and make sure that the NRC is doing their job of oversight so that Holtec will not be doing the things that they're doing on the East Coast. And Kevin Camps has a point. There's been tritium leaks underneath the plant. And when they remove the plant, they should remove all of the contamination as far as it goes down, and not just 3 feet. I heard it was even maybe a mat less than that they were planning on removing. And also if there are spills in other areas, they should thoroughly decontaminate the area. And as far as moving the nuclear waste, how the heck are they going to do that? You don't want that stuff being barged out onto the Great Lakes. And you don't want it just to sit there, forever unmonitored. So that's a problem too. And I wish the whole process would have started much earlier in 2018 when it was scheduled. And I'm kind of horrified that Energy has sold out to Holtec because of Holtec's bad record. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Additional online public comment.
Seeing none. No.
One more time, additional online public comment.
Oh, yep. Oh, no. All right. Can you ask Michael if he wants to speak?
Michael, did you want to speak? If so, please unmute.
Or please raise his hand.
Please raise your hand, Michael, if you want to speak.
He keeps raising it and then lowering it. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, no. Okay. Well, now this person can talk.
Okay.
Bill's lowered it again. But
What's the person's name?
There's just a phone number. So
This is someone online. It's the person that's online on the phone. Could you please state your name and feel free to speak?
perhaps they just mishit it. So.
They may have mishit the button, so bear with us as we navigate the technical difficulties, if any.
Iris has raised her hand again.
So if a public member raises their hand again and they've already spoke, my assumption is they wanted to use the balance of their 3 minutes.
Mayor first says Iris may use the remainder of her time.
Iris,
she can unmute.
You can unmute. Iris, if you're there and you wanted to have a few more moments for the balance of your time, feel free to speak.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any additional members online, public members that wish to offer a comment? Can I ask one more time? Any additional public comment online? Hearing none, the mic is returned back to the chair.
Support. Opposed? Thank you. The next item of business will be adjourn. We'll take a motion to adjourn. It's been moved and supported. All in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you. We are officially adjourned.